Shalom, shalom. It's Tehila from the Kifar with our bi-weekly Hebrew verbs lesson. And we are going to talk about another Pa'al group. We are almost done with the Pa'al Binyan. And I'm going to use the verb to sing to illustrate what this conjugation pattern is. So in the last lesson number 6, we talked about verbs where the root ends in an aleph and used the verb likro, which is to read. It has a bunch of other meanings. To illustrate what that pattern is. And so the first verb was limtso, which is to find, get rid of the lamed and the vav, that gives you matza. The masculine singular sound pattern was oe, so that's motse. The feminine singular sound pattern is the same thing, plus with the tav at the end, so oet, motset. Masculine plural, oim, so that gives us motzim. And feminine plural, oot, so that gives us motzot. The second verb was lisno, which is to hate, get rid of the lamed and the vav, that gives us sana as the root. Soneh is masculine singular, sonet, feminine singular, sonim, masculine plural, and sonot, feminine plural. So if you need a refresher on this one, they have the video number 6, and I'll have the link in the comments below as well. Okay, so here are the 5 Pa'al groups that we've done so far. We have the regular group, and that's oe, oeet, oim, oot. We have our acha group, and that's the one where the middle letter of our shoresh is an aleph, hey, chet, or ayin, and our sound pattern is oe, oeet, oaim, and oaot. The next group is the vav tav group. These are verbs where the infinitive ends in a vav tav, and that sound pattern is oe, oa, oim, oot. And then we had roots that end in ayin, and our sound pattern is oea, oaat, oim, oot. And then lastly, roots that end in aleph, oe, oet, oim, and oot. You don't have to worry about the group numbers themselves. So you don't need to memorize that, okay, a verb that ends in ayin is a group 4 verb or a group 5 verb. I just gave them arbitrary numbers based on the orders in which I introduced them. What's important is that you can recognize what type of verb it is based on a given characteristic. So if you see a pa'al verb and the infinitive ends in a vav tav, then you should know, okay, the conjugation pattern is going to be oe, oa, oim, oot. Even if you don't remember what group it necessarily is, or even if you don't remember that it's called the vav tav verb, just when you see those characteristics, you'll know what the sound pattern is that's associated with that type of verb. Okay, so don't get caught up in trying to match up the names with the groups. That's not important. What's important is that you know what type of verb it is, and then how you need to, or not what type of verb it is, but you can recognize the kind of verb it is and then conjugate it based on your knowledge. So 5 groups that we've done so far. We're going to add another group, and this is 2LR, which stands for 2-letter roots. So all of the examples that we've done in the 5 groups we've learned so far have all been your typical 3-letter roots. Now in Hebrew, of course, there are exceptions to everything. Usually a root is made up of 3 letters. However, there are roots that are made up of 4 letters, and you have roots that are made up of 2 letters. And so we're going to talk about pa'al verbs that have 2 letters in their roots as opposed to 3, and what that conjugation sound pattern is. And we're going to use the verb lashir to do that. Lashir means to sing. This is the infinitive. And the first step, as always, is to get rid of that initial lamed. Now, I don't remember, or I don't know if you remember from the first video when I first explained how to find the root from the infinitive. And I said the second to last letter, after you get rid of that lamed, the second to last letter will be either a vav or a yod, and you get rid of it. All the examples we've done so far have been a vav, so you may have forgotten. But in this case, it's a yod. And so we're going to get rid of that, and that leaves us with shar is our root. And as you can see, it's just 2 letters. So it's going to follow a different pattern. The masculine singular is actually going to be the same as the way in which we pronounce the root, where we just have an a sound. And when I put in the letters of the shoresh, you'll understand what I mean. Feminine singular is a with a hey at the end. Masculine plural is aim, and feminine plural is aot. Okay, so masculine singular, we just have an a sound. So when we put in the letters of our shoresh, that gives us shar. Feminine singular, we have a. When we put in the letters of our shoresh, that gives us shara. Masculine plural, sound pattern is aim. When we add the letters of our shoresh, we get sharim. And the feminine plural sound pattern is aot. And when we add the letters of our shoresh, we get sharot. Okay, so we pronounce the root as shar, And the masculine singular is also shar. Feminine singular, shara, masculine plural, sharim, and feminine plural, sharot. Now with our pronouns, hu shar, he sings or he is singing. He shara, she sings or she is singing. Anachnu sharim, we sing or we are singing. And in this case, it's masculine, so it'll be either referring to we as all men or we, a mixed group of people. And hen sharot, they sing or they are singing. So here you can see the example with the yod, and this is the one that we just did, but sometimes there will be a vav. So it doesn't matter whether you have a yod or a vav, you get rid of both of them the same exact way, and you'll see that you're left with two letters in the roots. So the example we did was shar, and the example on the left with the vav is now gar. Okay, and masculine singular, same thing, is also gar, just like our masculine singular for to sing was shar. And then we have gara, just like we had shara, garim, just like we had sharim, and garot, just like we had sharot. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether your second to last letter is a yod or a vav, you get rid of it the same way, and you'll see that you're left with only two letters in your root. Before I give you the exercises, I just want to let you know that I get a lot of different questions about what Hebrew is or isn't, and so I wrote a blog post about it, answering a bunch of different questions that people have about the Hebrew language. So check it out. If you have additional questions, I would be happy to update it and add the questions that you have. It's available on the blog. And now let's talk about your exercises. So same as usual, you're going to use what you learned to find the roots of these two verbs that I give you and conjugate them in the present tense. So your first verb is larutz, which is to run. And here you see that we have a vav. And your second verb is lariv, which is to argue or to fight. And here you see that we have a yod. Doesn't matter, you're going to get rid of both of them the same way, and they follow the same pattern. All right, so that is it for our verbs lesson today. The next verbs lesson that we have is going to be a review, just like we did after we learned the first three groups. We reviewed them, so we're going to do another set of reviews in the next lesson before I give you the final group in Pa'al, and then we can move on. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Send me an email, connect with me on social media, like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you next week for our vocabulary lesson. Shalom.